me see. What is going on? All right, go ahead.
Okay, I'm not muted, so good morning, everybody. October 28th, and obviously the slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We will persevere until we succeed. Till we succeed. We have to remember that. So today, actually, we coincidentally, Dan brought up a subject about the frogs. So here's a book called Eat That Frog. And there are a whole series of these little books that we've had for a long time. And Dan and I were both on the same page with this thing. And basically, you know, we're talking about procrastination. That's one of the main themes today. So just before we do that, I'll ask you, you know, there are 5 frogs sitting on a lily patch. One decides to jump in. How many are left? And everybody says 4. No, 5. Because your decision to do something doesn't mean you're actually going to act on it, doesn't mean you're going to implement it. You've decided to do something, but until your mind and your body and everything else coordinate, it's just a thought. So one of the biggest problems we have is procrastination. So just as an example, I mean, every morning I think about going to Pilates and I think, oh, hard work in there. They're going to, you know, I'm going to strain and puff and pant and what have you. And then because I see that effort, but then what motivates me is when I visualize and I know the results of what it's going to be afterwards. I'm going to feel like $1 million. So you've got to find something to attract you through that hardship of you know, oh, this is a pain. Find something that's going to motivate you to go through that pain. So that is what procrastination, how we can overcome procrastination is to visualize some end result which will motivate us. So eat the frog. And there's just a quick thing about that. Why? The first thing you should do in the morning, the first thing is do the hardest things of all, because that's eating the frog. It's the most unappetizing thing you can possibly do. Imagine eating a frog. Well, once you've eaten that frog and you're burping and you got over that, you got the rest of the day to do all the easy stuff, because everything's going to be easy after you've eaten that frog, after you've done that really, you know, that chore that you don't really want to do. Once you've done that, the rest is easy.
Yeah, and you know, for a lot of people, it's very easy to procrastinate, you know, for a multitude of reasons. And so we really need to put pressure on ourselves first to get those jobs done, those tasks that we don't look forward to doing on a daily basis, and get those done first. And we know that action creates success, right? And just taking that action to do those things every day, those unappetizing things, and getting them done first. But massive action creates even greater success. So we need to identify the most important goals in your life today. What is it? What is that one goal, if you achieved it, would have the greatest positive effect on your life? What one accomplishment would have the greatest positive impact on your work life, right? And then just determine one constraint, internal or external, that sets the speed at which you accomplish these goals, right? So one of the things that I do, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, is you know, when I'm setting goals and is I make lists, right? But you can't really procrastinate. You can't really identify the most important goal. You can't really determine those constraints unless you really know what you want. So the first thing you need to do is decide what you want, right? So I want to encourage everybody to really sit down over the next couple of days and think about what is it that you really want. And then don't stop until you're crystal clear about what it is that it's expected of you to reach that goal, right? And in what order or priority you're going to do things to reach that goal. If you don't know what you want, how do you know what action to take, right? And then what do you know which frogs to eat first? how do you set your goals if you don't know what you want? It's as simple as that. You can't, it's not possible to set your goals if you don't know what you want. What do you want that end result to be? So we really need to set that down, make sure you write it down, put it in paper, share it with somebody on your team, do the exercise alone or with somebody else, and put it down on paper, because that creates accountability. You've written it down. It's set in stone. Until you do that, it's just a thought, right? And if you keep it within yourself, it's just only a thought that you have. So you need to share those thoughts with somebody else. Share your goals, share exactly what you want, especially in this business. Share it with your team members, share it with your sponsors, share it with, share it with a team member that you brought into the business so that they know what you want, right? And then help them figure out what it is that they want, right? Write it down, think on paper, and then most importantly, you need to set a deadline. A goal or a decision without a deadline has no urgency. So you need to set that sense of urgency. If it has no beginning or has no end, you can take years to do it, years to reach that goal, years to get what you want. But ultimately, it's up to you to get what you want. Nobody else can get what you want for you. You need to go out and get what you want. And you need to figure that out first.
Yeah. And what Dan's saying is, it's got to be, the crystal clear part has got to be in your mind, written down somewhere in your face where you can see it all the time, because it's a subliminal impact that you've written down what it is, and you keep looking at it, and it's a subliminal thing. And the crystal clear thing is, for example, I want 4 brand new reps on my front line in 120 days, each one with sales of 4,000 points, and I want them all within 20 miles of my home. Now that's a crystal clear plan. And initially you're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm not sure I can do it. Well, if you don't start, and if you don't have that in mind, absolutely clearly what you want, you're not even going to take the first step because you don't know where to start. So here we know where to start. You've got exactly in mind what it is that you want. Of course, we then go into the other things like the whys and all that. That's a different subject altogether. But in this case, it's crystal clear and written down.
Do you think Michael Jordan knew what he wanted when he went out and won multiple championships? Do you think Tom Brady knew what he wanted when he went out and won multiple championships? Do you think Warren Buffett knew what he wanted? Anybody that's been successful, anybody that you can look at, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, these guys all guaranteed knew exactly what they wanted to achieve before they went out and achieved it. They set those goals. I guarantee you they wrote it down on paper. There's a great story about Jim Carrey. He wrote a check to himself for $10 million for acting services rendered. And that actually came true. His first movie that he did, he got paid $10 million for it. Oh. He wrote down exactly what he wanted. He wanted $10 million and he wrote it down and he made it come true. So, we need to write it down. That's a very important part of the process. But also you need to make a list, add up everything you're going to do, what you're going to have to do to achieve that goal, right? And then as you think of new activities that you need to do, because you're going to need to pivot. Nothing's ever going to go to plan. You need to continually be adding new things to your list and then keep building that list until it's complete. I make a list. I'm a list guy. I make a list every single day. If I showed you my calendar, there would be a full list of everything that I need to get done that day. And it's usually prioritized based on the frogs that I don't want to eat first. The hardest things that I want to get done in the day, because in the morning I have the most energy and I'm going to be the most productive. So I want to get those things out of the way, but I'm constantly shifting those things around during the day based on when I have phone calls scheduled or different tasks that may pop up that have more urgency, right? And then those things lower down, those lower value activities are the activities that I move to the end of the day, or that I'm okay moving them to the next day because they're not absolutely imperative for me to get done to reach my goals and get what I want, right? So don't be afraid to shift those things around on your list especially if they're the unimportant ones. The important ones, you want to make sure that you get those done every single day, because without those, you're never going to reach your goal, right? Or it's going to take much longer to reach your goal. And then you need to make a plan. You need to organize that list by priority and by sequence, just like I said I do. I do it every single day. I do it the night before so that I know exactly what I need to do when I get up in the morning. First thing I do in the morning, after I meditate, after I have a cup of tea, after I eat, after I exercise, the very first thing I do when I get into work is I take a look at that list again so I know exactly what I need to get done that day, right? But you need to prioritize it and then decide what you need to do first, what you can do later, lay out your plan visually in the form of a series of lists if you need to. And then you're going to get a lot more done. You're going to be a lot more productive. It's going to be a lot easier to achieve your goals when you break it down into those individual tasks by importance.
Just going over what Dan's talking about and following this list of things that that is in this Eat the Frog. There's one thing that is important. We have a really big advantage that we are not alone. We've got a whole team of people. We've got, sponsors. We are sponsors. We have people that we work with. So, it's very difficult sometimes to work on your own, by yourself, motivate yourself and everything. But we've got a whole team of people to do that, to be with. The other thing that Dan's talking about is to, when you plan ahead, think about in our business, what are the curveballs that are there? Because we're talking about prioritizing, making a plan, doing it, but there are always curveballs coming up. And we've got to think about what could derail our focus on something. So, maybe, for example, the product couldn't arrive or whatever it is. There's so many things, there's so many curveballs. We've got to stay ahead of everything to understand what it is, that where we are and how we just, how we develop our business. And the difference between urgent and important, do the important things first. If you don't, they become urgent, and urgent becomes a pain in the butt because it takes away from your efficiency. If you've got to suddenly do something that you forgot to do, that becomes urgent. And now you're replacing something that was important because you have to attend to this now. So urgent is the thing that needs to be done timeously, plan it well, and then you won't have things that become urgent unless they're completely, out of your control. So the prioritize sequence will help you to avoid having things that become urgent later on.
And then the last step to this whole process is my favorite, because that's where everything happens. It's taking action, right? You can decide what you want. You can write it down on paper. You can set a deadline. You can make a list. You can make a plan. But without action, none of that means anything. So you need to take action on your plan immediately. Do something. Do anything. Execution is everything. And you don't need to know everything before you start. The plan's going to change. You know that. If you go into it knowing that plan's going to change and that you don't need to have everything, that the plan doesn't need to be perfect because it's going to change, you just need to get started, right? So take action every day. Build these activities into your daily schedule. Don't miss a day. Review your goals daily. Every morning, start with your biggest frog to achieve your most important goal at that moment. If you aren't, and then if you're not getting results, it's time to look at yourself. What is it about you that is keeping you from where you want to be? What is it about you that is not allowing you to lead the life that you want and the life that you deserve? But you only deserve what you want if you put in the work, if you take the action, right? I could sit here and say I want $1 million, that might be what I want. But if I just sit here and keep wanting $1 million, it's probably not going to happen. You need to take that action. It's not luck. It's your ability to do the things that most others are unwilling to do. It's about making those sacrifices in your daily activities and putting your goals first to get what you want out of life, to get what you want out of this business. So what are you willing to sacrifice to get what you want?
We've actually always talked about, would you hire you? Well, every day we should, at the end of the day, look and say, was I a good hire for me, or should I fire me? I mean, how good was I today? Was I on the ball? Was I in the zone? Or was I a complete waste, like an appendix? I mean, why am I worth what I'm thinking I'm worth? So that's where you go back to the leads and the lag measures and all that sort of thing. What was the plan? What did I execute? How did I do it? Did I do it well? Did I not do it well? But as Dan said, execution is everything. And unless you actually take action and actually get in the saddle and ride this thing, nothing's going to happen. It's those 5 frogs at the beginning. The intention is there. Yeah, the decision to do it is there. Unless you take action, nothing's going to happen. But you have to have accountability. And this is where I come back to the fact that we've got a team of people. We are not alone. Find somebody to work with in your team. Doesn't even have to be in your team. We all have mentors. We all have people that we can, call up and ask an opinion. How should I invest my money? What are the good stocks to have? I don't know. We've got to find somebody. But in the team, there's somebody that is there to help us in our business. So, and the introspection is very important. Be ruthless. Look in the mirror and say, I know I'm good, but actually I was pathetic today. And why was I pathetic? What was it that made me distracted or distracted me? What was it that didn't allow me to achieve what I really wanted to achieve? This introspection is something important, and we've got to learn to do it. We've got to learn to be ruthless with ourselves.
Think about some of the people within your life that that are successful, right? And, I'm a big proponent of, you need to sacrifice to be successful. You need to sacrifice certain things. And think about people that that have been successful, and try to put yourself in their shoes and think about what they needed to maybe sacrifice to get what they wanted. If it's a doctor, for example, they went through 12 years of school to get what they wanted. They spent countless hours in cadaver labs. They spent countless hour in chemistry labs, or whatever their particular specialty may be. And so they sacrificed time with their loved ones. They sacrificed time partying with their friends. They sacrificed extracurricular activities that they like to do. They sacrificed money to get where they wanted to be, So we need to put ourselves in the shoes of the others that we know that are successful, and talk to them, find out what they did to be successful, and incorporate those things into your life. And so as I was reading Eat That Frog, a lot of the things in the book I was actually doing. I just did it kind of naturally over the years. It's just kind of become my process. But there were still some things in there that resonated with me and that I can incorporate into my daily activities. So, the point is that even though I'm doing a lot of those activities, there's still things that I can learn and grow from by reading these books. So, take that personal growth, those personal growth activities, reading books, and incorporate them into your daily activities. I've set 20 minutes a day that I read in Apple Books, and it tells me whether I've achieved that goal or not. And, X amount of books per year. I basically applied these same principles to my reading and my personal growth. I decided that I wanted to read 25 books this year. I wrote down a list. I made a plan of how I'm going to do it, and I used Apple Books to do it and make sure that I'm doing what I need to do every single day, to reach that goal. And I'm taking action by reading every single day. So you can incorporate these activities into everything you do, your relationships, your work life, your personal life, your exercise life, So they're not just for work. Incorporate these things into every aspect of your life, and you're going to be more successful and happier.
Dan, we're talking about the plans and so on. This was a 120-day Ruby plan. That's what it used to be. That's how I started off with. And in this, what it is now, 90-day success journal, but there's in here the repetition of everything that needs to be done. It's in here. Follow the bloody system. That's all. That's all we got to do is follow the system. It's there. It's all written down, black and white, every single day. What do we need to do? And it's in here. It's already printed out for us, a lot of the things we need to do. The other thing I wanted to just mention, and when Dan's talking about, when we talk about being successful, I want you to think about this. I always talk about this famous $600,000. How long will it take you to save 600? Let's talk about $1 million. How long will it take you to save $1 million in presently whatever job we're doing outside of what we're doing here? Think about it. How long? How many people have saved $1 million? If you put that in the bank at 5%, that's $50,000 a year. No one's going to give you 5%, but that's $4,166 a month. Okay? How long can it take you to do the equivalent, have that $4,166 approximately a month doing this business? I can tell you, if you set aside just 2 or 3 hours, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week is 10 hours a week. 50 weeks is 500 hours. That's 63 days of the year if it was constructive time. That's 2 months of the year. If you do accordingly 4 to 5, 6 months, you can have that equivalent of $1 million in the bank. It's a question of how you prioritize and how you distribute your time and how disciplined you are in doing it. Dan is extremely disciplined, way, way more than I've ever dreamed of being. But he holds himself accountable. So we talk about success. Dan worked, I think, 29 years, 7 days a week. Listen to this, 7 days a week. He was on call, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, because he was in the operating room. 29 years, 7 days a week. Who the hell's going to do that? Only someone who's got very clear ideas of what they want. And he sacrificed, absolutely, lots. But now he's able to go camping and sleep outside and get bitten by the mosquitoes because that's what he likes. And, so, it's about what you want and discipline and taking action. Execution is everything. I don't know if, Dan, if you've got anything, otherwise we've got a couple of minutes if anybody.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. Let's take a couple of questions, comments.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything?
Nobody?
If not, we've done a fantastic job once again, Lawrence. Kudos.
You really did. You guys had this thing all lined up, and the progression of thought is just great. It just gets down, like for myself. Okay, be honest? Are you taking the committed action, Jim, every day to accomplish it? And so you can, I want to reset some goals, and but now in a context that hopefully I'll get a better understanding. I have a better understanding of just exactly what it's going to take.
Yeah, you need to, and now's the time to start setting your goals for next year. Don't wait till the end of December. Start formulating your plan now. Right?
Yeah.
Now's the time to start thinking about what you want next year, not January or December 31st. Don't do what everybody else does and make those goals January 1st and forget about them by the middle of January. Start thinking about them now, start putting a plan in place, start thinking about what you want next year and what actions you need to take to get there.
In corporate America, I remember when I was in banking, you'd have McKinsey or someone come in and all the execs would get involved and we'd set up a 5-year plan. Then the damn thing gets set on the shelf. They didn't have actual, daily and monthly implementations and accountability to accomplish the goal. I remember experiencing that in a major bank. And so like Dan, what you say is absolutely right. When's the best time to do your year's planning? Today. Today's the best day. And then are you going to do it all up and get all excited and then not put on your phone to revisit it in 30 days to make damn sure you're still on track with what you were so excited about 30 days ago? I mean, that's really a part of this process.
Yeah, that's what you got whiteboard for as well, to stay on top of what your plan is. You've written it down, you've written it somewhere where it's in your face. It's a subliminal thing. You know what you got to do. You know who you got to call. You know who your priorities are. You know what you want to achieve. And on a whiteboard, those are the ones you keep dripping on until you've actually achieved that goal. If that's your goal, it might be something else. But I'm just saying you've got to be crystal clear. That's the whole point of what we're talking about today. If we look at just the points, it's very simple. It's know what you want. First of all, those are the same questions I always ask. Who are you? How well do you know yourself? And what do you want? Unless you know what you want with crystal clarity, you're just going to be somewhere in 5 years' time, wherever you are, whether you want to or not. So, we've got it crystal clear, write it down, set a deadline. Make a list of everything you're going to do in it to achieve this. Make a plan, prioritize a sequence. These are them. Take immediate action, take action every day. Those are the simple things. And if you get this thing here that I'm talking about, this 90-day plan, it's already written there. This is OTG has this for our business. We don't have to reinvent a damn thing. It's all there.
And don't be afraid to print this stuff out and post it somewhere in your office, next to the door so you see it every time you leave, or on the outside of the door so you see it every time you walk in. Occasionally, you guys will see behind me, I'll put something on the wall like believe or why wait, or there's something that I'll print out that resonates with me that week, and I'll put it on the wall near the door. So it's the last thing I see when I'm leaving my office, right? To just give me that constant reminder. I took that from the series Ted Lasso. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but they put a sign up that said believe outside of his office. So every time he went into his office, that's the last thing that he saw before he'd go into his office to do his planning. So figure out what that word is or that phrase or what you want and print it out and put it somewhere where you see it daily as a constant reminder to you of what it is that you want. It's a very simple task to do. So do that today, or figure out over the weekend, think about what it is you want and print it out and put it somewhere as a constant reminder. Put it on your mirror in your bathroom so you see it every morning when you wake up, whatever that is. But just constantly remind yourself, to Jim's point, these companies plan and then they never have the accountability. They never even think about it again. They put it up, they spend all this time and money to do that, and then they never hold people accountable or revisit it, weekly or monthly or whatever it may be. Don't be like that. Create a constant reminder that's going to make you look at your goals, look at your lists, look at your plan, and then reevaluate it as needed.
There's a team implication as well, and that is, have you ever met anyone who wants to follow someone who doesn't know where they're going?
Yeah.
You want to attract top-notch people, you better get yourself up to that level before they ever start showing up.
Okay. I was just thinking about social media and how people follow clueless people. So yeah, there are millions of people following the influencers because they all want to be influencers, but they don't know what the hell they're going to influence about. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Kent Nelson and Mancy Shaw
Yeah.
for the call on Wednesday. Again, it was knock it out the park. It was excellent and very well presented. It was just a great call, and I encourage you to listen to that. And one other quick thing, Nancy actually said something in her call last week, I think, just out of the blue. She said, and I committed, because I talked about making a public commitment to something. She said, I want to be December, but I want to be a diamond. And then I said, okay, by when? And she gave a date. And she mentioned it last week. She said, I've got this mental thing here that I'm being held accountable. I'm being held accountable to be diamond by that time, because this is what I announced. So, it does help to put it out there, because you can lie to yourself, but it's a bit embarrassing when you lie to the world. James, you've got something to say?
James who? Not me.
James Tears.
Oh, Jim Tierce. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I really enjoyed your discussion, Dan, because I've been writing lists, but I never get back to them, and I never finish that final step. So having your knit by knit steps helped me to figure out which of the steps I'm not doing. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, anybody else?
One more thing, what we're talking about when you're talking, Jim, about step by step, it's the compound effect. If you know where you're going, take one step at a time, and by the end of the year, you've taken 360 steps if it's one a day, 365. So it's all of these things we talk about, we've got to actually put them into effect. We've got to make them into a coherent, actionable plan. And execution is everything. We were talking about that.
If you're not executing on your plan, if you're not executing on your list, you're just wasting your time.
Totally.
You can put a list with 20 things on it. You can put a list with 100 things on it. If you're not executing on those high value activities, which are the most important activities to help you reach your goal and get you what you want, then you're wasting your time. Everything else, there's 3-4 high value activities that are going to help you reach your goal. Nothing else on that list matters. Get those top 3 or 4 things done. Move on to the rest if you have time that day. Determine at the end of the day which ones you can just wipe off the list, because they don't matter if you get them done or not. It's just something that you've created to keep yourself busy. And then start refocusing for the next day on the top 3 high value activities. It's just repeating that over and over.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, be ruthless with your own introspection. Be ruthless. Don't lie to yourself. Absolutely hold yourself accountable, and if necessary, find a friend to hold you accountable and hold the other ones accountable. Okay? Anyway, anything else? Anybody else got anything to add or subtract?
All right. Thanks,
Right.
everybody.
Great call.
Thanks.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Tears.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, gentlemen. You too.
Bye-bye. Cheers. Thank you.